Hello, gentle listener. Oh my, we can barely contain ourselves. This episode marks the finale of our serialized presentation of The Wendigo by Algernon Blackwood. I must say we've seen a remarkably positive response to our little experiment with serialization thus far. We do so hope that today's denouement, as it were, meets your expectations. Please do excuse this interruption, but we have a brief announcement. This is a Patreon subscriber-exclusive episode, one of the many perks of supporting our humble production through Patreon. Nevertheless, we will still be sharing this little teaser, as it were, with you, our non-Patreon subscribed friends of the podcast. If you wish to hear this and our other Patreon-exclusive episodes in their entirety, just visit patreon.com/Nocturnal Transmissions. All right, thank you for your time. And now, on with the show. Moss-eater, he repeated, with a string of the most outlandish oaths he could invent. But Simpson now understood the true purpose of all this talk. What these two men, each strong and experienced in his own way, dreaded more than anything else was silence. They were talking against time. They were also talking against darkness, against the invasion of panic, against the admission reflection might bring that they were in an enemy's country, against anything, in fact, rather than allow their inmost thoughts to assume control. He himself, already initiated by the awful vigil with terror, was beyond both of them in this respect. He had reached the stage where he was immune. But these two, the scoffing analytical doctor and the honest, dogged backwoodsman, each sat trembling in the depths of his being. Thus the hours passed, and thus, with lowered voices and a kind of taut inner resistance of spirit, this little group of humanity sat in the jaws of the wilderness and talked foolishly of the terrible and haunting legend. It was an unequal contest, all things considered, for the wilderness had already the advantage of first attack and of a hostage. The fate of their comrade hung over them with a steadily increasing weight of oppression that finally became insupportable. It was Hank, after a pause longer than the preceding ones that no one seemed able to break, who first let loose all his pent-up emotion in very unexpected fashion, by springing suddenly to his feet and letting out the most ear-shattering yell imaginable into the night. He could not contain himself any longer, it seemed. To make it carry even beyond an ordinary cry, he interrupted its rhythm by shaking the palm of his hand before his mouth. "That's for the Fargo," he said, looking down at the other two with a queer, defiant laugh. "For it's my belief," the sandwiched oaths can be omitted, "that my old partner's not far from us at this very minute." There was a vehemence and recklessness about his performance that made Simpson, too, start to his feet in amazement, and betrayed even the doctor into letting the pipe slip from between his lips. Hank's face was ghastly, but Cathcart's showed a sudden weakness, a loosening of all his faculties, as it were. Then a momentary anger blazed into his eyes, and he too, though with deliberation born of habitual self-control, got upon his feet and faced the excited guide. For this was unpermissible, foolish, dangerous, and he meant to stop it in the bud. What might have happened in the next minute or two one may speculate about, yet never definitely know. For in the instant of profound silence that followed Hank's roaring voice, and as though in answer to it, something went past through the darkness of the sky overhead at terrific speed. Something of necessity very large, for it displaced much air, while down between the trees there fell a faint and windy cry of a human voice, calling in tones of indescribable anguish and appeal. Oh, this fiery height! Oh, my feet on fire! My burning feet on fire! White to the very edge of his shirt, Hank looked stupidly about him like a child. Dr. Cathcart uttered some kind of unintelligible cry, turning as he did so with an instinctive movement of blind terror towards the protection of the tent, then halting in the act as though frozen. Simpson alone of the three retained his presence of mind a little. His own horror was too deep to allow of any immediate reaction. He had heard that cry before. Well, there ends our little teaser, I'm afraid. If you would like to hear the rest of this story and our other Patreon-exclusive episodes, just join up on our Patreon page as a minion, acolyte, or cohort. The choice is yours. Normal services will be resumed in a fortnight's time. We look forward to seeing you then, gentle listener.